Okay, this is K9WLW again. This is a video that's specific to Openspot 2 users. This is something I have discovered after experimenting with the Openspot 2, and this is specific to DStar. This will work on the Kenwood THD74 or any ICOM radio that has DR memories already programmed in with the repeaters from all around the world loaded into the DR memories. Now, most of us are very familiar with communicating on reflectors if we've been involved with DStar. And really, reflectors are nothing more than a congregational place where a bunch of stations can all link in together and all hear each other on one frequency, if you will, or one server. Okay. For example, reflector 30 Charlie or reflector 1 Charlie. And if you go to the dashboard on these reflectors, you'll notice that there are oftentimes 500, 600, 700 hotspots at any given moment connected to those reflectors, along with a number of DStar repeaters. Some of them get pretty crowded, and there's a lot of activity on them, and there's a number that are not very crowded, and you're kind of a lone wolf in that reflector. Another thing that is unique to DStar, and this is one of the reasons I like DStar more than the other digital modes, is you can also connect your hotspot, your Openspot 2 in particular, to a remote DStar repeater. For example, you might live in Ohio and you have a friend who monitors a repeater in his hometown in Tennessee, and he's not necessarily on a reflector. Well, if he has his radio monitoring his local DStar repeater and he's just kind of watching TV or taking it easy and just has the radio waiting for a call to come through on that repeater, well, guess what? If you know that he's listening to that repeater, you can connect your hotspot from wherever you are to his repeater and pop in and say hello, and you'll be able to QSO on his local repeater through the internet gateway that your hotspot utilizes. Okay, another thing you can do is, let's say you're on a road trip and you like to listen to your local DStar repeater. Well, you know, I'm sure you get 20 or 30 miles out of town or more, you're out of range, and that's that. Well, guess what? Most DStar repeaters are accessible through the gateway with your hotspot. So you can actually drive across the fruited plain with your hotspot tuned and connected through the gateway to your repeater, so you literally can be hundreds of miles away and just monitor your local repeater. Or maybe you have a repeater that you like to get curious about in another country, or you see recent activity on the last heard DStar menu online. That gets me curious if I see a repeater call sign popping up in the last heard. Well, it just so happens I've stumbled into a repeater in Adelaide in South Australia. And there was actually a few hams I've QSO'd with there. And more often than not, they don't have their repeater hooked up to a reflector. They're just holding local chit-chat. Well, one thing I've noticed about DStar users, even if they're holding local chit-chat on a repeater, they sure like it when somebody pops in to say hi to them, especially if they're from a faraway location. I'm not saying every DStar operator is going to like it, but you'd be surprised how many QSOs you can have on a faraway remote DStar repeater. So again, above and beyond reflectors, you can connect to a DStar repeater. And with the Openspot 2, it is really easy. All right, we'll do a demonstration. Okay, currently I have my radio tuned to my Openspot 2. And to go anywhere with the Openspot 2, as long as you're in the DR memory mode, like I am here, you hit the up arrow for to select, press and hold. And the magic of Openspot 2 is utilizing something that's called Gateway CQ. This is a feature that you'll find on ICOM radios as well as the Kenwood D74, provided you have already had a repeater directory for DStar repeaters loaded into the DR memories. So let's go into Gateway CQ and see what we can do. Again, we're used to the reflector, link reflector, use reflector, and all that, but this is something called Gateway CQ. And again, this does not apply to Pi-Star users. This does not apply to repeater users themselves. This is strictly for Openspot 2. Cannot stress that enough. Okay, we go into the Gateway CQ. Now here on the Kenwood, it's sort of a region of the world thing. Well, I'm going to try and connect my hotspot to a repeater in Adelaide, South Australia. And it just so happens Australia is in the Oceania group. So I highlight Oceania, hit enter. There's Australia, New Zealand, and Guam. I'll go into Australia. And it just so happens that this repeater is in VK5 land. And it has the call sign VK5RWN. And they're kind of arranged in order, VK3, VK3, and so forth. VK4, scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down. VK5RWN, there's the A module, or 1200 megahertz module, the B module, or 440 module, and there's the C module. This is the repeater that I want to connect to. It is a 2-meter repeater in Adelaide, South Australia, and I'm, of course, at my home QTH on my Openspot 2, 50 milliwatts, lowest power setting, and I'm going to connect to that 2-meter repeater. So I highlight it, hit the Enter key, and you'll notice it'll say VK5RWN Module C in the 2 field. So all I have to do now is kerchunk with my push to talk, unkey, and wait.
Openspot connected to VK5RWN Charlie.
Sorry about the volume on that. It said Openspot connected to VK5RWN Charlie. And you see that it says connected on my display. Now again, remember, after a connection, what do we have to do? Reflector, use reflector, CQ, CQ, CQ. I'm already connected to this repeater. Now, one thing you want to be aware of is after you've connected, you probably want to wait 30 or 60 seconds before you key up. There might have been a transmission already going there, and a lot of times when you connect to the repeater, you won't hear that first transmission if it's already keyed down and going when you connect in. So it's a good idea to wait. So I'm going to pause, and then I'm going to make sure that there's no activity, and then I'll come back. Okay, no activity. I'm just going to give a quick shout and see if anyone hears me. Again, it is 1:30 in the morning here, so it is late. Probably late morning, or I'm trying to think how many hours ahead. It's already Sunday there. It's Sunday AM here, so it's probably late Sunday afternoon in Australia. So maybe somebody's tuned in. This is K9WLW monitoring. Okay, I did connect and transmit. There's nobody there apparently, or nobody willing to respond. But there you have it. I am connected to that repeater. Again, I'm not connected to a reflector. Again, don't be fooled by use reflector. All that is the CQ, CQ, CQ for transmitting over the internet. And again, I'm connected to that repeater. Okay, so if I were to just sit here and monitor, okay, and anybody keys up on that repeater, provided they're using use reflector CQ, 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 I'll hear them. If they're using local CQ, I will not, because that does not put their signal out over the gateway. If that repeater happens to be connected to a reflector, any reflector traffic will also be heard by me through that repeater. So be a little cautious, because sometimes you can bump into a repeater that might be hooked up to 30 Charlie or 1 Charlie or something busy, and you won't know it unless you have access or find a way to access the repeater's online dashboard. And not all of their websites are known by all hands, so some of them are hard to find. This one I happen to have a website to pull it up, so I can always check before. But when you connect, you're kind of connecting blind. So try and be aware of the fact that there may be reflector traffic that you're bumping into. But in many cases, there's not, and there's just local guys listening. And you'd be surprised how many QSOs you can run into. Now, as long as I don't make any changes to the hotspot or disconnect the hotspot or connect anywhere else, I'll just be remaining connected to that repeater. And that's how you connect to a repeater. Now, just for one more example, let's say I want to connect to my local Tampa repeater, but I don't want to have to use 5 watts of power and have to transmit RF and wear my battery down. I can do that through the gateway. Or maybe I have a hard time hitting that repeater because it's a little far. That's okay. I can use the gateway. So again, with Openspot 2 on the Kenwood 74, up arrow, not reflector, we go to gateway CQ. I'm going to go to North America. I'm going to go to USA. Florida's in 4 land, W4. I go through my list of repeaters. Alabama is first. And then after that, we come into Florida, and I'm looking for Tampa. Getting closer. There it is, W4RNT-B module. I highlight it, hit the enter key. I now have it in the 2 field. Kerchunk. Unkey.
Openspot connected to W4RNT Bravo.
Okay. I'm connected now. Again, don't forget, back to reflector, back to use reflector. Now I'm monitoring the W4RNT repeater through the gateway. So you can actually pick all kinds of repeaters off the repeater directory and connect, or look for activity online and actually connect in, and you'd be surprised at what kind of QSOs you can find. And they don't necessarily have to be on actual reflectors. That's one of the magic points of DStar that I always appreciated. Above and beyond the reflectors, you can actually connect remotely to individual DStar repeaters. Anyway, that's that for now. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at cq2meters@yahoo.com, or feel free to leave any comments below. 73s, this is K9WLW.